Hello guys, welcome to the data analysis video for the semester evaluation report. So I'm going to go through with you how to prepare the data analysis portion of this report. So let's get right to it. First of all, there's some things that are very crucial that we need to understand as we're writing this report. The very first one being the number of students who sat for your respective exam. As for me, I had 15 students who sat for this operating systems exam, and of these 15 students, we had 7 who were male students, and I had 8 who were female students. So after knowing this, we also need to prepare a table which shows the candidates and the percentage which they got, the total percentage they got for this respective exam. Excuse me. So as you can see, following the guidelines that we had for the grading system that we are currently using, it depends with the subject that you're taking and whether it's a diploma or a certificate one. So for my course unit, I had 5 students who got A, and of this, the percentage is 33%. And how we get 33%? We get 33% by obtaining the number of students who got A, which is 5, and then we divide this by 15, which is the total number of students. So by getting 5 and dividing this by 15, and then we have to multiply this by 100, that is how we get 33. It is practically 33.33%. Yeah, so this is how we get this 33%. So we are supposed to do this for all the grades that we had. For example, we have another one where we are considering the grade B. So we have 4 students who had grade B. So in order to find how many students, the percentage of students that had B, we need to take, that is 4, and then we divide that by 15, and then we get 0.266, and then we multiply this times 100, and we get 26.667, which is the percentage of candidates who got B. So we do the same for all the grades until finally we have all the grades of all the students who did this. Okay, I'll put together on that. Next, we have marks obtained according to class interval. So we have this class interval, the first one being 80 to 100, and then the second one being 60 to 69, third one 50 to 59, and the fourth one 40 to 49, and lastly we have 0 to 39. So we have the frequency part. The frequency is the number of students who attained marks in this class interval, whereby I had 5 students who had 80 to 100. So you're supposed to find the frequency of students for all the grades. We practically have this from already the summary that we are supposed to have created. When we look at this one right here, it can give us almost like a guideline on how to move forward. But this one, for 60 to 69 I had 5 students, and 50 to 59 I had 3, 40 to 49 I had 1, and 0 to 39 I had 1 as well. And then we are supposed to calculate the percentage, the frequency percentage. So basically the frequency percentage is done the same way we are calculating the percentage of grades which got the candidates. So from 80 to 100 we have 5 students who got that. So we take 5 and then we divide by 15, whereby 15 is the total number of students. 5 we divide by 15, and then we find the percentage times 100. This is the This is a percentage, 33.33%. And where, for example, here we have 3, so 3, we need to take 3 and divide by 3, divide that by, 3 divided by, oh, sorry, 3 divided by 15, we get 0.2 times 100, we get 20%. So we have 20 over here, and then we have 1 divided by 15, which is the total number of students, times 100. You have 6.667. So this is how you get the frequency percentage. And in order to get cumulative frequency, we need to get the, first of all, the first value of the cumulative frequency. We always have to take this one right here. The first value that we have, this is the one which will be replicated here. And then to get the next value, we need to get this 5 that we already have and add it to the next value in the second row, which is this 5 right here. So if you take this 5 and we add it to this 5, we get 10. So we put this value here, we have 10. Then to get the next value of the cumulative frequency, you need to take 10 plus 3, 10 plus 3, and then we have 13 right here. Then to get the next cumulative frequency, you need to take 13 again plus 1, which is in the next column, the next row, and you get 14. Then from 14 you get 14, you take another plus 1, then you have 15 over there. So this is 15, which is the total number of candidates who sat for this exam. This is how you get the cumulative frequency. Then we have the cumulative frequency percentage. So the cumulative frequency percentage, you need to get the value of the cumulative frequency over the total number of students, candidates who sat for this exam, and multiply that by 100. So if you have 5 over there, that means you get 5 over divided by 15, you get 0.003, then times 100, they get 33.33%. So this is the cumulative frequency, 33.33%. So in order to get the next cumulative frequency percentage, you basically need to do the same thing. You take 10, 10, which is the next cumulative frequency. So you have 10 divided by 15, we have 0.66667 times 100%. We have 66.666%. And you do the same to the next value. We have 13 over there, so that's 13 divided by 15 times 100, and you have 86.6667. and the next value is 14, so you have 14 divided by 15 and then times 100, and you have 93.3333 recurring. And lastly, we have 15 divided by 15 times 100, and you have 100%. So this is how to create this table for the marks obtained during class interval. Next, we shall look at the analysis of subject achievement. So for this, there are some key things to consider. The first one being how many, for each respective question, how many marks were out of that question. So for my exam, each question had 20 marks. Each question carried 20 marks in total. So there are two things that we need to consider. The first one being incorrect or correct response. what we mean by correct response, and the second one being what is an incorrect response. What is an incorrect response? So the first one, we have a correct response. A correct response is taken to be one with marks equal to or greater to 10. That is what we consider as being a correct response. So we take a correct response as one with marks greater than or equal to 10. So if a student has marks greater than or equal to 10, I used to take that as a correct response, that the response was given correctly. He has attained half or greater than half of what was required of him or her. Whereas an incorrect response is taken to be with one with less than 10 marks. So if a student has less than 10 marks in his response, in his answer, I take that as an incorrect response, whereby he has not been able to provide an answer that is about greater than half of what he's supposed to provide. So let's get to it. We have the first question right here. This was question number 1. Question number 1, I have the column for correct response is 14. This means that out of the 15 students that I had, 14 were able to get 10 marks or more on this question. Okay, so 14 students out of the 15 were able to get 10 or greater than 10 in their question. So you need to create you have another column right here for correct response percentage. So correct response percentage is taken by taking 14, and then you divide that by 15, which is the total number of students, and then you multiply that by 100. So we have 14 students who had a correct response, and then we divide that by 15, and then we multiply that by 100. So we get 93.33 recurring. So 93.33 recurring is the correct response percentage, whereby out of the 15 students, 14 answered correctly or provided a correct response. So that only leaves one student who got less than 10. Getting less than 10, that we take that as an incorrect response. So that's just the one student. We can get this by taking 15, which is the total number of students, and divide by 4, and subtract that from 14, and you have 1. So this one, in order to get the incorrect response percentage, you need to do the same thing again. You have 1 divided by 15, and then you multiply that by 100, and you get 6.666%. So the incorrect percentage is 6.66%. That was for question 1. For question 2, the same thing. So we have 12 students who had a correct response, meaning out of the 15 students, 12 were able to get 10 marks or more. That is how we classified as a correct response, having 10 or greater than 10 in the marks for that respective question. So in order to get the correct percentage, you need to take 12, which is the number of students who had a correct response, and then we'll divide that by 15, which is the total number of students who who attempted this exam, and then you multiply that by 100, and you will have 80%. So this means 80% of the students got a correct response, whereby the incorrect one, you need to take 3 and subtract you take 15 and subtract 3. Sorry, you get 15, which is the total number of students, and you subtract 12 of the correct respondents, and then you have 3, which is the total number of incorrect response. Incorrect response being the total number of students who attained marks less than 10. So in order to get the incorrect response percentage, you need to do the same thing as we did for the first question. You get 3, you have 3, and you divide that by 100. Sorry, you get 3, divide that by 15, which is the total number of students, and you multiply that by 100, and you get 20%. So basically 20% is the total number of incorrect response percentage for the second question. So whereby you see you can have the same thing here. It's like having here we have 80% of a correct response, so that only leaves 20% for incorrect response. And the same thing is applied to question number 3. You have 9 correct respondents, whereby 9 students have attained marks greater than or equal to 10. So we have 9. So we get to get the correct response percentage, you have 9, and you divide 9 by 15 times 100, and you have 60%. So by having 60%, without even having to do a lot of calculation, we can see that if we have total correct response for question 3 is 9, and we know that we have 15 students, so if you take 15 subtract 9, you have 6. So out of 6 is the total of incorrect responses. So for the incorrect response percentage, you have to take 100%, which is the total number, and you subtract 60 from that 100, and you have 40%. The same applies to question 4, where you have 10 correct respondents. So you need to get the incorrect respondents percentage. So you will have 10, and then you will divide 10 by 15 and multiply that by 100, and you will have 66.6667 recurring as the incorrect percentage. And by doing that, you can also say, in order to get the incorrect response, it will be 15 minus this 10, which we already have as the incorrect response, and you will have 5 incorrect responses left. So to get the incorrect response percentage, you can do the same thing as we did before and say that 100% minus 6.667%, that will give you 33.33 recurring percent as the incorrect response percentage. And for the final question 5, you have 14 correct responses, so that leaves only 1 incorrect response. So having this is the same as the question 1. So the data for question 1 will be basically the same as the data for question 5. So whereby you will have 14 divided by 15 and then times 100, and that will give you 93.33% recurring, as well as when you take 100% minus 93.33% recurring, you will have 6.667 recurring as your incorrect response. Now that would, after we're through with this table that I named table 1, we need to draw a graph that will depict this data that we have right here. So in order to draw that graph, what we can do is we can select this entire table. I can do this by selecting this table right here, put your cursor over there, and once you've highlighted that entire table, you can copy this and paste it in Microsoft Excel or whichever spreadsheet that you are using. I will just paste this right here, and I will have this, so just to put this so that it can be clearly read. Okay, and we have perfection. So next we need to draw a graph for this data. So again, we will highlight all of this, and then I will go to my tab here and say insert, and I'll say I want a column chart. Out of this column chart, I will use this specific one, 2D column, and here we have, I have my graph right here, all nice and tidy. And we can see from this graph we have question 1, and then we have the column in blue. It says correct response point question 1, and if you remember, we had 14 right here. We have 14, and this says 14 right here. and the incorrect response was there was only one, so this one is 1. And the same applies for question 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here we have our graph. So what we can do, we can just copy this graph right here on the chart area, say copy it, and we will paste it over here, and there we are. That is our graph for this data. Yeah, so this is basically it, and I think the rest is quite clear. So it says graph 1 was prepared using information collected from table 1. That is, retrieval of information from the above graph can be illustrated by the following example. The highest number of candidates who have correctly responded to question 1 and 5, that is percentage is 93%. So here we are stating these, we are stating the above graph, trying to explain in brief about it, saying that the highest candidates have correctly responded to question 1 and question 5. This is the highest number of students have been able to respond correctly to question 1 and 5 respectively, and say its percentage is 93%, and it says the least number of candidates have incorrectly responded to question 1. Its percentage is 10%. So the least amount of students that have been able to incorrectly respond to question 1 is 10%. Yeah, so basically that is it as far as the data analysis portion for this report is concerned. The rest is just straightforward marking scheme, answers, the technique, and all that. Yeah, so I think we could be done with this. This is just straightforward, the marks of the students and their registration numbers. Yeah, with that I would like to call this a day. So if you have any more questions or suggestions, or if there's any part that you have not got clearly, please feel free to contact me. You know where to find me, and welcome and have a good day.